A high value woman, for the sake of this conversation, is a woman who values herself very highly, a woman who men and others value very highly. They're women who are desired, respected, women who stand out above the rest, women who men look at and they think that is the one woman that I want to be with. They're women that guys give up things for. They're women that guys will give up their old ways of being and grow into better men for. They're women that inspire men. They're women that inspire men to commit to them and move mountains for them and travel to the ends of the earth to be with. They are women that are high value women. That's what we're talking about. My name is Matthew Coast and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about 10 things that high value women never, ever, ever, ever do. And let's start with number one. Number one, high value women do not do is compete for men. That's the first one. If you're competing for a man, he does not value you above the other women that are around you. He's not looking at you as that one special woman. And that's a problem, right? You're not being valued by him. And if you want to be valued, if you take nothing else from anything else that I say, if you want to be valued, you should probably not do what the majority of women in the world are doing, right? Because the majority of women out there are not being valued, right? Especially right now in the West. It's a huge, huge problem. And you want to stand out from all of those women. You want to do something different. And that's part of what we're doing here is we're spreading the word. We're helping women do something different than what all the other women are doing. And we're helping them stand out. We're helping them get valued. We're helping them make sure that they get into situations where they're loved and valued and seen and cherished by a man. You're more likely to get the result that you want if you just stop doing what all the other women out there are doing and do something different. Number two, let's do it. Fight. Number two thing that you do not want to do, high value women aren't doing this, is fighting for men who don't want them. It's okay to fight for a man who's also fighting for you. It's not okay to fight for a man who is not fighting for you or who's running the opposite direction. You don't want to do that, right? If a man doesn't want you, just leave him alone. If he doesn't want you, leave him alone. He doesn't want you, just go somewhere else. Find a man who values you. And you might be saying, and I hear this all the time, I hear it so often from women, but Matt, this is the man that I feel it for. He's the one that I want. I don't want any other man. Well, great. That will fade, right? You can change that. You can change the way that you feel. Get into abundance. Find other men. Break that connection that you have with them. You have a lot of control over how you feel and all that kind of stuff. That kind of lust and love feeling that you get, it's like a drug, right? It's like an addiction. And just like an addiction, it takes a little bit of time to wean off of that, but you can break it and get off of it, but you can't keep shooting the drug if you want to get sober, right? You have to stop shooting the drug and you have to spend time sobering yourself up so that you can move on and find a better drug to be addicted to. Okay. All right. Maybe forget that last part. Number three is trying to prove their value to a man. So if you're trying to prove your value, the only thing that you're really proving at all is that you don't actually believe in your own value. High value women lift others up because they're already up there. They're not scrambling to get up there. They're not trying to show everybody that they're up there because they don't really feel deep in their heart that they are. And I mean, there are things that you can do, right? Like if you want to set frames. You want to set precedents of how you want to be treated. You can do that. Can you remind people of your value? Absolutely. Can you set a frame of how you want to be treated? Yes, you can. But don't try to prove your value. Do not try to convince people of your value. Don't try to convince men of your value, because what it shows them is that there's something missing. There's something wrong here. Why is this person trying to prove their value to me? Even if they don't think it consciously, they'll feel it and they'll think it subconsciously, and it'll kind of create this little mismatch in their brain until it actually proves to them that you aren't really that high value woman that you're trying to portray yourself as. You're actually coming from a place of feeling insecure and deeply flawed, which is the only reason that you do that. And so you don't want to do that. Number four is that you don't want to send nude photos to men. This is a giant no. Don't do it. Even if you're in a relationship, I have heard some just horror stories from women in our community who they send these photos to guys, and then the guy would like show them to all of his friends, and the woman's like, what is going on here, right? Or she sends him photos and he like blackmails her with them or something. I mean, it's bad, It doesn't matter if you've been dating them for a while or whatever. Things change. When things are going well, whenever things are any way, we always tend as humans to think that things are going to stay that way forever. If we're in love and we're having this great time with a person, we think that this is how it's always going to be. I trust him right now and I'm always going to trust him, right? And maybe that's true. And maybe what's going to end up happening is that he's been hiding something from you for months, and it's going to pop up all of a sudden. And next thing you know, you're going to be in a fight or whatever. And then he's got all these nude photos of you that you don't want to be plastered all over the internet or whatever is going to end up happening with them. And so my suggestion is do not do it. Do not do it. Don't do it. It's not good for you. Number 5 is convincing a man to be with them. This is something high value women do not do. High value women have a take it or leave it type of an attitude. If you have to convince a man to be with you, he doesn't see your value. High value women go where their value is already seen, not where they have to prove it to someone. Not where they have to prove it to someone. Number six is things that you don't want to do is twist yourself into a pretzel to be the right woman for a man. So you want to have a sense of who you are and what you're about and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with dressing sexy or even doing things for a man. That's not a problem, right? There's kind of this thing out there, which is like this, just be yourself kind of thing, which obviously we all want to be ourselves and we all want to connect with ourselves. And at the same time, a lot of people are using it to say, oh, I don't want to do anything differently than what I've always done, right? And that's a really kind of unhealthy attitude to have. Instead, you want to have an attitude of, I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm developing myself. And, this is the woman that I'm growing into. That's kind of the identity thing that we talk about with the goddess or the queen or any of those things that we talk about. The high value woman, which is the thing we're talking about right now. It's an identity, right? You're taking on this identity and you're saying, this is who I'm going to be. This is who I am moving forward for myself in my life. And then coming from that space and saying, okay, being this high value woman, how do I act? How do I behave? What do I look at? What am I doing? What am I not doing? Right. And you can change behaviors based on that, but you don't want to do things to impress somebody or try to be the right woman for a guy or try to convince him, because then you're still coming from that space of I'm not enough. And if you're coming from that place of I'm not enough, you're going to convince everybody that you're not enough, because they're going to say there's something wrong here. That's what that behavior does, is for guys out there. And it's the same when men do this with women. When a guy's just constantly trying to prove to you that he's the right guy, I mean, it just feels weird. There's something weird about it. And you're just like, oh, why does she keep saying that to me? Why does she keep trying to show me all these things about how awesome she is? Is it maybe because she doesn't really feel like she's awesome deep down in her heart? Mm-hmm. And that's usually what ends up happening from that. And so you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Do not want to do that. All right, number 7. Number 7 is chasing men. So if you're always the one reaching out to them, so what does chasing look like? You're always reaching out to them. You're the one that's setting up all the dates, planning everything, doing all the work, and he's just hanging out, waiting around for you to do these things. And what ends up happening, usually in most cases, is that you end up getting taken for granted. You end up missing all the red flags of what's actually going on with this guy. You miss the fact that he's really not that into you. He doesn't feel all that invested and interested and like he really wants to be in this because he hasn't been doing things. And then you end up getting disappointed and angry and feeling like life's not fair and all kinds of other things, which is a really bad place to be. And so do not chase men. Instead, what you want is for a man to chase you at the beginning. You want him to prove to you that he actually cares, that he's actually real about this, that he actually really likes you, that he likes you for something more than just your looks, than just hooking up with you, all that kind of stuff. And then you want to build the relationship together. So building together. That's what you really want, is to build it together. Number 8 is seeking revenge. This is low value, immature behavior. High value people let go. They learn the lessons that need to be learned, and then they move on. All right. So number nine here is things that high value women never do is they never argue or fight to be heard, valued, or respected. So what am I talking about here? High value women, when they aren't being heard, when they're not being valued, when they're not being respected, they communicate. It's the first thing that they do, is they talk and they make sure that they know, the guy knows, the person knows, whoever's around them knows that there's a problem here, right? That they feel like they aren't being respected and that there's another way that they wish that this could have gone, and that this is the kind of behavior that they want to see in the future. Basically, they set boundaries, right? They set boundaries, they communicate standards, they talk about what it is that they want, they talk about their preferences, they talk about the things that they like and things that they don't like. And if they aren't being listened to, she gives the man a gift. She gives him a gift of her absence. She gives him a gift of missing her. And then he gets to just miss her, and she goes off and lives her life until he or she or whoever's interacting with her gets it together and starts valuing her. Or if they don't, then they don't get to be a part of her life. Number 10 is never learning the lesson. So what are we talking about here? Life, in my opinion, life is filled with lessons. Dating, relationships, it's filled with lessons. And those lessons are designed to be learned. And then once you learn those lessons, you can transcend those and learn another lesson, because life is just filled with lessons that just keep happening over and over and over again. Until you just get further and further. It's really a never-ending journey of learning lessons, but there are higher quality lessons that you end up learning eventually, and the lower quality lessons suck really badly, and the higher quality lessons, I mean, it's rough and it can be stressful and all that kind of stuff, but you look back at those lower quality lessons and you're like, man, this is so much better than being down there. Right? That sucked. And so what does this look like? Let's talk about what this looks like a little bit so you understand it. So he keeps pushing past or ignoring your boundaries, and you keep giving him chances over and over and over again, right? He does something, he treats you a certain way, he keeps talking to these women that, and you guys are in a committed relationship, and he's flirting with women all over the place when he's around you or whatever. And you just keep giving him chances. And usually what it looks like in our community or with women that bring this up is they'll be like, well, what do I say to him now? I keep telling him about this, and I said it over and I said it over and I said it over. And it's like, yeah, you aren't being valued and you're not being respected, and you haven't learned the lesson yet. And the lesson is that you need to walk away from places where you're not being valued. Most of the lessons that you learn in life are about value, about believing in your own value. Some of them have to do with believing or loving yourself, right? But a lot of them have to do with believing in your own value. Another way this looks is you keep getting into hookup, casual situationships, right? Just sex-based situations with men, and wondering why men don't commit to you. This is the one I hear over and over and over again. And it can be a pattern, right? You have a pattern where it happens over and over and over and over again. I was talking to a woman a while back where she was, that was it. That was her whole pattern. It was years of going from one casual situation to the next, to the next, to the next. And she's like, when am I going to find a guy who wants to commit to me? And I'm like, when you learn the lesson that you shouldn't get into situations where you're just being a casual fling, where you're just hooking up with guys. It's like one of the other videos I did, I was talking about this woman that one of the things that she learned, the biggest thing that she said she learned that changed everything for her, was not hooking up with guys on the first couple of dates anymore, right? And all of a sudden guys want committed relationships with her. And she's like, man, my mind was blown, right? And yeah, I mean, you can do that. Like, have women gone into friend with benefit hookup situations? Have women slept with a guy on a first date and it ended up in marriage? Yeah. But what's the probability? The probability of that happening is really low, so don't do it. Another example of this is you give ultimatums and never follow through with action, right? If you don't do this, I'm leaving, right? And then you don't leave, right? Because it's an ultimatum and you're really using it just for manipulation and not because you're actually serious about it. And so you either need to be serious about it, or you need to figure out whether this is reasonable, or you need to figure out what's actually going on with you and, figure out what your situation is there. And sometimes you do need to ask other people, right? So you might need to have a third party that helps you with this. This is one of the reasons why, one, our community is such a valuable place to be, and two, having coaches is such a valuable place. The community is great because you can get just massive amounts of feedback from women, just like, this is what I think, right? But the problem is that a lot of these women are coming from their own traumatic backgrounds and stuff. And so they'll project that onto your situation. And the value of having a coach is that they are trained to do this. They're trained to look at what's going on with you and helping you with your specific situation and helping you get to where it is that you want to be, because they've worked with so many women doing this. And so that's the value of those things. So let me go back over all these different ones. I'm just going to do a real quick recap. 10 things that high value women never do. Number 1, compete for men. Number 2 is fight for men who don't want them. Number 3 is trying to prove their value. Number 4 is sending nude photos. Number 5 is convincing a man to be with them. Number 6 is twisting themselves into a pretzel in order to be the right woman for a man. Number 7 is chasing men. Number 8 is seeking revenge. Number 9 is arguing or fighting to be heard, valued, or respected. Number 10 is never learning the lesson.